I wasn't always an artist. Not unless you count the time I finger painted a smiley face with ketchup on the bathroom mirror after my wife told me she was working late for the third night in a row. Back then, I was just a guy with a decent job, a crooked smile, and a blind spot the size of a Buick when it came to the woman I married. Her name was Elise. She was the type of woman who could walk into a room and make the lighting adjust to her cheekbones. A little too polished, a little too perfect, but I wasn't complaining. I was the one she picked. That's what I told myself, like a fool who thought winning the lottery meant you kept the money. We lived in a house with more windows than secrets, or so I thought. I was a regional manager for a logistics company, which basically means I was an Excel spreadsheet in human form. Elise? She was in marketing, knew how to sell anything, including, apparently, herself. The art started small. After she took up yoga and started getting text messages from work at 11 p.m., I picked up a brush. Just to pass the time. Just to cope, if I'm being honest. It wasn't anything fancy. Abstract stuff. Messy. Unfinished. Kind of like our conversations. One painting turned into 2. Then 5. Then I had to clear out the guest bedroom to make space for my hobby. Elise said it was cute. Even told her coworkers about her little artist husband. The way she said it made me sound like a pet. But I kept painting. I couldn't stop. There was something calming about it. Cathartic. Like I was finally saying everything I couldn't articulate in polite dinner conversation. At first, the images didn't make sense, not even to me. A hand reaching through smoke. A clock melting in the rain. A rose on fire in a glass of milk. Symbolic nonsense, right? Wrong. They were fragments. Clues. Like my subconscious was way ahead of me, screaming, "Wake up, man, she's lying." But I wasn't ready. Not yet. The breakthrough came after painting number 12. That's when a friend stopped by. Not a close one. Just a guy from my old poker nights. He stared at the latest piece for a long while, his mouth moving slightly like he was trying to do long division in his head. "Is this about Elise?" he asked. I laughed. "What? No. It's just a painting." He looked at me like he'd just watched me trip over my own shoelace and pretend it was intentional. "You sure? Because that looks like her necklace. The one she wears to work. And the guy's tie? That's not yours." I looked again. He was right. That was the first time I realized I might be painting the truth before I was ready to face it. After my friend left, I stared at that painting until the sun came up. It was a haze of red and blue streaks, a man in a charcoal gray tie, not mine, leaning toward a woman with copper earrings and that necklace, the one I gave Elise on our 5th anniversary. The background was a swirling mess, but now I could see it. It wasn't abstract. It was a hotel room. I'd painted the corner of a headboard, a wall lamp shaped like a tulip, and one of those overpriced bottled waters with the silver cap you only get at mid-range hotels that pretend to be classy. I didn't remember doing that. But there it was. Clear as guilt. I sat in my studio, the guest room turned paint-splattered sanctuary, and lined up the other canvases. 12 of them. Like apostles to a truth I didn't want to believe. One by one, the symbols started making sense. The melting clock? That was the night she forgot our dinner plans and told me she lost track of time. The rose on fire in the milk? That was the Valentine's Day she spent with her sick coworker. The hand reaching through smoke? That was me, reaching for a version of Elise that didn't exist anymore. That night, I opened a fresh canvas and painted until my hand cramped. This one was different. There was no hiding in symbols. It was a faceless woman walking down a hallway, dragging a red suitcase. Her hair, the exact shade of Elise's after she dyed it, sunset amber, bounced with each step. Behind her, shadows followed. Tall, masculine, indistinct, and numerous. She was walking away from a man made entirely of shattered glass. His mouth was open like he was screaming, but no sound came out. That was me. I didn't even need to sign it. The next day, Elise noticed. Not the art, please. She hadn't noticed me in weeks. No, she noticed that I was quiet. "You okay?" she asked, scrolling through her phone, probably checking in with him. Or them. Who knows? "Yeah," I said. "Just thinking about doing an art show." She raised an eyebrow. "An art show? Like, public?" "Yeah," I said, thinking of calling it The Woman I Knew. She laughed. Actually laughed. "Sounds dramatic." I smiled back. "You have no idea. I didn't go looking for it. That's the part that still stings. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't that guy. But lies have a way of crawling into the sunlight when they get tired of hiding. It was a Tuesday. Rainy. The kind of day where even your coffee feels cold on the inside. Elise had left early for a team-building brunch. Who has mimosas at 8:15 a.m.? Her, apparently. Me? I stayed home, brushing paint onto another canvas. This one was a woman kissing a man while holding a phone behind his back. No face, just lips. And the phone screen glowed like it was alive. Around noon, I realized I hadn't eaten, so I wandered into the kitchen. That's when it happened. I was reaching into the drawer where we keep takeout menus. Every couple has one of those, right? When something fluttered to the floor. A small, neatly folded piece of paper. One of those thermal receipts that fades if you look at it wrong. It was from the Crosswinds Hotel. Room service. 2 entrees. Champagne. A room upgrade. Charged to her card. And the date? Our anniversary. I wish I could say I sat down. I wish I could say I handled it with grace. What I did was laugh. Out loud. One of those short, bitter bursts of laughter that make you sound like a lunatic in a horror movie. Because that's what it felt like, some kind of domestic horror flick where the monster wears perfume and swears she's just working late. I didn't call her. Didn't text. I just stared at that receipt like it was the Rosetta Stone of betrayal. Because in a way, it was. Suddenly, everything translated. Every missed call. Every new perfume she claimed was a gift from a coworker. Every night she came home smelling like a hotel lobby. That night, I waited up. When she walked in, rain still dripping off her umbrella, I asked how the brunch went. She smiled. Oh, good. We did trust falls. I nodded. Did he catch you? She blinked. What? I held up the receipt. Her face drained faster than a broken sink. She didn't say anything. Didn't cry. Didn't apologize. Just stood there, cornered by her own signature at the bottom of a receipt I wasn't meant to find. I'm guessing the other entree wasn't for your boss, I said. Still nothing. I have a show coming up, I added. You'll be the star. That got a reaction. Her mouth opened. What does that mean? I shrugged. You'll see. I didn't throw her out. I know somewhere. Someone reading this just let out a disappointed sigh. But here's the thing. You don't throw out a storm. You board up the windows, let it pass, and then go outside and rebuild on top of the wreckage. Me? I was still standing in the eye of it. The receipt had confirmed the betrayal. Her silence had sealed it. Now, it was my move. Elise didn't offer up a defense. Not that night. Not the next morning. In fact, she slipped into this eerily polite mode, like a waitress who knows your steak's overcooked but isn't going to fix it. Coffee? She asked. Toast? Like we were still a team. Like I was the one who needed consoling. No thanks, I said. I'm full on irony. She winced, but didn't bite back. Good. I wasn't ready for a fight. I was planning something more elegant. That morning, I went to the garage and pulled out the easel I'd bought back when I thought art was going to be a phase. I set it in the middle of the living room, right in front of the window, where she could see it, where anyone walking by could see it. Then I painted. Not symbols this time. No metaphors. This was Elise, bare, unfiltered, and brutal. The first painting was called The Meeting Room. It showed a woman sitting across from a man in a dim hotel bar. His hand was on her knee. Her wedding ring was in her purse. You could just barely see the shine of it through the partially open flap. I didn't show it to her. I just left it leaning against the wall, facing the hallway, so she had to walk past it every time she went to the kitchen. She didn't say a word, but she slowed down when she walked by. Her eyes lingered. Good. Next came unanswered calls, a canvas filled with dozens of cell phone screens, each glowing with missed messages. Some showed my name. Some showed words like, "Where are you?" and "I'm worried." All of them were ignored. Elise started waking up earlier, leaving earlier, avoiding the living room altogether. I caught her drinking wine at noon one Saturday. She was unraveling. But I wasn't done. The mirror doesn't lie was the turning point. A woman standing before a cracked mirror, wiping away lipstick from her mouth while a man's reflection stood behind her, holding divorce papers. That one stung. I could tell. She knocked it over by accident one morning. Be careful, I said, not looking up from my sketch pad. Art breaks easier than people think. She flinched. By the time I had 5 completed paintings, I made a call to my old college friend, Janelle. She ran a small gallery downtown that usually featured edgy urban surrealism or ironic sculpture installations made out of toaster parts. But she owed me a favor. Are these abstract? She asked when I pitched the idea. No, I said. They're emotional. They're forensic. She didn't get it, but she said yes anyway. I titled the exhibition The Woman I Knew. Not the woman I loved, not the woman who lied. Just new. Past tense. Impersonal. Surgical. Word spread fast. Mostly because I didn't hide the inspiration. I let people assume what they wanted. And boy, did they. Even Elise's coworkers came to the opening, whispering behind champagne flutes. I overheard one woman say, "I think that's her necklace in the third painting." Another murmured, "This is brutal. He's hanging her out to dry." Exactly. Elise showed up on the second night of the show. I hadn't invited her. She walked through the gallery like a tourist in her own crime scene. Her heels clicked like nervous punctuation. She stopped in front of The Last Lie, a painting of a woman sitting on a hotel bed, looking at her phone. A man stands in the hallway outside the door, holding a keycard in one hand and a wedding photo in the other. His face is hidden in shadows. Hers is not. She stood there for a full 5 minutes. Then she turned to me. "You really did this," she said, voice barely above a whisper. I nodded. "You gave me the material." She looked like she wanted to say something, apologize, defend, maybe slap me. Instead, she just left. No drama. No tears. But her expression? That was a painting in itself. One I didn't bother putting on canvas. Some art is best left unfinished. By the end of the month, the woman I knew had gone semi-viral. Some online influencer dubbed me the husband of vengeance. A local paper interviewed me. I kept it classy, never said her name. But Elise knew. Everyone did. She moved out a few weeks later. Didn't leave a note. Didn't need to. The walls of the guest room were empty again. But not for long. I had another series in mind. One that would come after this chapter. A sequel, if you will. Because when truth becomes art, revenge becomes framing. And I wasn't quite done framing her yet. Revenge is like oil paint. You don't just slap it on a canvas and call it done. It has to dry, layer by layer, detail by detail. You wait, you plan, and then, only then, you sign your name at the bottom and hang it in the gallery. Elise had moved out by now. I didn't help her pack. I didn't stop her either. I watched as she loaded her things into the back of a rideshare, her driver looking awkward, trying not to make eye contact with the woman whose face he might have seen in an art gallery downtown. Or maybe just in the news cycle of shame she was now floating in. She left her wedding ring on the kitchen counter. How symbolic. I picked it up, studied it for a moment, and dropped it into an empty jar of gesso in my studio. A relic, now. No different than a dried brush, once useful, now stiff and forgotten. But as I said, I wasn't done. The show had sparked something in people. I started getting messages. Men, mostly. Strangers. Some polite. Some heartbreakingly raw. All of them thanking me, telling me how they wish they could have turned their pain into something worth framing. And among them was one particular message. A man named Daniel Grant. "Your third painting. The mirror doesn't lie." That was her, wasn't it? Elise. I recognized the scar on her shoulder. We were involved. Briefly. That's what they always say, like infidelity is a temp job. I didn't reply right away. I stared at his message for a long time. Then I went digging. And what I found wasn't just another affair. Daniel wasn't just a fling, he was a coworker. Married. Father of 3. A man who had, according to some light digital snooping, just launched a Kickstarter for a relationship mindfulness app. You can't make this stuff up. So, I messaged him back. "Thanks for your honesty," I wrote. "Would you mind coming by the studio? I'm working on a new piece. You might be able to help." He agreed. Like I said, people don't expect the quiet guys to be dangerous. They expect us to write poems. We write manifestos. Daniel came on a Sunday. Nice guy. Apologetic. Sheepish. The kind of guy who always tilts his head to show empathy, like he's auditioning for a role as a priest's understudy. "I had no idea she was married when it started," he said, sipping the coffee I'd made him. "And when I found out, well, I ended it." "Good of you," I said. "Tell me, does your wife know?" That got him. His eyes twitched. "No, I didn't." "I mean, I didn't think it would help." "Right?" I said, smiling. "Because some truths are more convenient when they're buried." He shifted in his seat. "Look, I'm not proud of it." "Neither am I," said. "But I am curious. Do you remember anything she ever said about me? During, your brief time?" He looked away. "That told me enough." "She said you didn't see her," he muttered. "That you were busy, distant, obsessed with your painting." I laughed. "That's funny. I started painting because she was already distant. A real chicken and egg situation, huh?" Daniel nodded awkwardly. "Listen, if it helps, I regret it. I really do. I looked at him for a long time. Not angry, just calculating. And then I said, I want you to sit for a portrait. He blinked. Sorry. You said you were part of the story, I said, gesturing to the canvases around us. Let's finish the series. You can help me get it right. He hesitated, but eventually agreed. Guilt makes people pliable. The next painting was called The Collaborator. It showed a man sitting in a chair, holding a mask in his lap. His face was blurred. Behind him, a puppet string tied to the wrist of a faceless woman, manipulating his hand to sign a letter. The background? Flames. Not dramatic ones. Controlled. Contained. Like something was quietly burning from the inside out. Daniel came back 2 more times to help me finish it. On his final visit, I gave him a copy of the piece. A print. Nicely framed. He smiled and thanked me. I waited a week. Then I mailed the original to his wife, with a note on the back that said, Art imitates life. So does betrayal. It wasn't cruel. It was just informative. And now Elise wasn't the only one whose web was unraveling. By this point, Elise had gotten wind of it. Word travels fast in circles where everybody's pretending to be above gossip but secretly refreshing Facebook like it's a crime blotter. She called me. I let it ring. Then I texted, if you want to know what's coming next, stop by the gallery. I'm working on the final piece. Because oh yes, there would be a final piece. One last painting. The frame was already hung. The title? The Woman I Knew. Final portrait. But I wasn't just going to paint it. I was going to make it live. There's a special kind of silence when you know someone is coming to confront you. It's not the peaceful kind. It's charged, like the air before a lightning strike. Every tick of the clock sounds louder. Every breath feels like it's waiting for the next one to come back with company. I sat in the center of my studio, surrounded by canvases like sentries. The Woman I Knew was almost complete. But something was missing. Not on the canvas. In the room. Elise. I'd left the door unlocked. I'd left the lights on. And I'd left the message in her inbox that said, the final piece is ready. It's about you. But not the way you think. She arrived at exactly 7 p.m. Same perfume. Different presence. She didn't knock. Just stepped inside, careful, as if the floor might collapse beneath her if she put her weight in the wrong place. Her eyes swept the room and landed on me, sitting cross-legged in front of the last blank canvas. She looked older. Not in a cruel way. Just stripped down. Like guilt had wiped away the makeup, the filters, the practiced smiles. You said it was done, she said. It is, I replied. But I wanted you to see it before the public did. She hesitated, like someone at the edge of a cliff who isn't sure if the drop is fatal or just long. You painted me as a monster, she finally said. No, I corrected. I painted you as I saw you. That's different. She folded her arms. So this is justice? Humiliation in oil and varnish. I stood, walked over to the easel. A cloth covered the canvas. I hadn't looked at it since finishing it 3 nights ago. Didn't need to. Every brushstroke was etched into my memory like a scar that never scabs over. Want to see it? I asked. She didn't answer. So I pulled the cloth away. Final portrait. The painting was unlike the others. This time, there was no faceless woman. No obscured background. No symbolism to decode. It was Elise, realistic, detailed, unflinching. But not just Elise as she was. Elise as she could have been. Elise at the edge of remorse, one I read with regret, the other defiant. Her hand held a phone, mid-text, suspended above the screen. A message that read, I'm sorry. Please come home. Her wedding ring rested on the windowsill beside her. Forgotten? Or considered? Behind her, shadows flickered on the walls, not lovers this time, but versions of herself, the girl who dreamed, the woman who lied, the wife who wandered. And at the very bottom corner, almost hidden in the folds of shadow, was a figure sitting at an easel, his back turned, painting her over and over again, until his canvas dissolved into ash. She stared at it. Didn't breathe. Didn't blink. When she finally spoke, her voice cracked like old wood. You still loved me when you painted this. Maybe, I said. Maybe I just hadn't fully let go. A long silence. Why now? She asked. Why show me this? I turned to her. Because you've seen the version of you I painted in anger, in betrayal, in pain. I wanted you to see the version I painted in truth. Her eyes glistened. And what do you want me to do with that? Whatever you want, I replied. But understand this. Everyone else will see it too. She flinched. You're putting this in the gallery? Yes, I said. Front and center. It's the final piece. The show ends with it. The crowd won't know what to make of it. They'll see the rage in the earlier work, and then this contradiction, this quiet devastation, this strange tenderness. She stepped closer, tears running freely now. Do you hate me? I looked her dead in the eye. No, that's the worst part. I don't. But I don't love you either. She nodded slowly, as if each vertebra in her neck had to be convinced to move. And after this? Then what? I walked to my desk and handed her a sealed envelope. Thick, heavy, personal. This is for you, I said. She took it, hesitated, then opened it. Her breath caught. Inside was a contract of sale. My name signed. Her name pre-filled. The contents? Her necklace. Her ring. Her dresses. Her perfume. All the small pieces she left behind. Everything I didn't want anymore, but that I knew she couldn't quite let go of. You bought these? She asked. No, I said. You will. $1. That's all I want. Why? She whispered. Because that way, I said, you can't say I kept anything that was yours. You'll own your past again. All of it. Even the pieces you thought I wouldn't notice. She stood there, holding the envelope, the weight of her history pressed into her palms. And for the first time in months, she didn't look powerful, or manipulative, or even ashamed. She looked human. Maybe too late, but human all the same. I'll go, she said, voice barely a whisper. I know, I said. She turned, reached for the door, then paused. Will I ever be just Elise again? Not your subject? Not your muse. I looked at the painting, at the woman I used to know. At this point, I said, I think you're more myth than memory. She didn't answer, just walked out. And I finally locked the door behind her. You'd think that would have been the end of it. Woman sees the wreckage. Man closes the door. They go their separate ways like a deleted scene from a moody indie film. But life's not a movie. It's a gallery. And some visitors come back after hours. 3 days after the final painting went up, I got a call from a man named Gareth Blake. British accent, money in his throat, the kind of guy who says brilliant after everything. I saw your exhibit, he said. The woman I knew. Striking, deeply personal, utterly brutal. I want to buy it. I was silent. All of it, he added. The entire collection. I blinked. You want to own my heartbreak? No, he said. I want to display it. Privately. I run an underground gallery. Exclusive clientele. People who understand consequence. Consequence. He wasn't asking for art. He was collecting cautionary tales. I gave him a number. He didn't even flinch. A few days later, a crew in gloves and silence packed the entire collection into a private transport crate labeled Fine Fragile Truth. I watched the truck drive off like it was carrying the ghost of my marriage away. But that wasn't the end. That was the spark. Because Elise found out who bought it, and where it was going, and more importantly, who would be seeing it. Turns out some of Gareth's exclusive clientele included people Elise knew. People who remembered her from company functions, charity galas, LinkedIn. I got a message from her. Just 2 words. You win. But she was wrong. This wasn't a game. This was justice, curated. When the exhibit closed, something strange happened. I didn't feel better. I felt unfinished. It turns out revenge doesn't come with a receipt. You don't get to return it when it doesn't bring peace. So I painted again. Not Elise. Not shadows. Not metaphors. I painted myself. The man who stayed sitting in a chair, looking at a phone that isn't ringing. Around me, all the paintings from the series hang like regrets. Then I painted The Apology, a blank canvas with a red stamp in the corner that simply said, too late. And finally, I painted Closure. Just a window. Closed. Locked. A streak of light coming in through the blinds. Dust in the air. Quiet. People didn't line up for this series. No headlines. No collectors. But I didn't care. Because those paintings weren't for them. They were for me. Months passed. Elise resurfaced, as they always do. She called. I didn't answer. She emailed. I didn't reply. Then one day, she showed up at my gallery, dressed down and desperate, clutching a file folder. She handed it to me without a word. Inside? Evidence. Receipts, texts, printed screenshots of messages between her and the other men. All of them. Dates, times, hotel names. Why? I asked. I want you to have the truth, she said. All of it. No more shadows. I stared at her. This wasn't an apology. It wasn't repentance. It was a peace offering. But the war was already over, and I'd won by surviving. I handed the folder back. I already painted the truth, I said. I don't need the paperwork. She nodded, and walked away for good. Funny thing is, I believed her this time. 1 year later, I hosted a final exhibition. Title? The Man I Became. Each painting from the woman I knew was reinterpreted, same concept, different tone. This time, the man in the background wasn't faceless. He was present. Whole. Alone, yes, but stronger for it. People came. Some recognized the originals from the now infamous private collection. They asked what changed. I said, perspective. Someone asked if Elise had seen these. I smiled. If she has, I hope she sees what she cost me. And what she didn't. Because here's the truth. She took my trust. She took my peace. She took the version of me who believed that love and loyalty always ride in the same car. But she didn't take me. That part she left behind. And I picked it up, brushed it off, and turned it into something beautiful.